Our next speaker is an alumnus of Worthington High School, having graduated with the class of 1956. After high school, attended the College of St. Thomas, Worthington Community College, and graduated from the University of Minnesota with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. Dave McCauley has worked for UNIVAC and Honeywell Aero Division as a systems analyst at the time when computers were just starting to be introduced into the business environment. In the early 80s, he started his own business, DSM Information Services, which is a manufacturer of business and accounting computer software. He was married to his high school sweetheart, Lonnie, a native of Rushmore, until her passing in 2023. They have 3 children, 4 grandchildren. He moved to Coon Rapids in 1960 in the Twin Cities Metro, where he still resides and has served as a city councilman, has served as the mayor of Coon Rapids, and as a county commissioner for Anoka County for 12 years. He is the author of the book entitled A Fair in Time, Adventures in the Turkey Capital of the World. Please welcome the 2024 King Turkey Day featured speaker, Dave McCauley.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. I'm really glad to be here. I've been to a few Turkey Day parades and have enjoyed them very much. I wonder why they asked me to come and speak. And I thought maybe it was because this is the 85th anniversary of Turkey Day. They wanted to show everybody here what an 85-year-old turkey looks like. Worthington has always been a sort of a magical place for me. A lot of the magical places that I was entertained with growing up have disappeared, but a lot of them are still here. For instance, if you look behind me, this row of buildings once housed an early version of the Worthington City Hall and also the Worthington Fire Station, and they're still there. And next to that building was a harness shop, which I enjoyed very much as a youngster. We'd go into the harness shop and pay a dime for a pair of leather shoelaces just so we could watch the harness maker cut them from a big horse hide. One of the things you may not know about Worthington that I was able to experience is we had one of the first fast food restaurants in the world. It was located right where that beige building is when those cars are parked. It was called Made Right. And if you walked in, put a quarter down on the counter, they would scoop up a scoop of cooked hamburger, put it on a bun, put it on a plate, and you were on your way. Faster even than McDonald's. And that was an interesting place that we loved a lot. If you like to go fishing, when I was a youngster, in the spring of the year, when Okabena was overflowing and water was running over the spillway, the spillway ran underneath, still does, ran underneath the railroad tracks and emptied into a ditch that went out to Lake Ochita. The Bashy boys and me and my older brother, I think I was 7 and my older brother was 8, we'd tag along with the Bashy boys and we'd go down to that creek below the outlet and the bullheads would be just swarming in a bunch right where the water was coming out of the culvert. The Bashy boys would wade into the water and throw the bullheads up on the bank. My brother and I would gather them up and put them in a gunny sack. We'd take them home. The Bashy's mother would clean them, put them in a roasting pan, and we'd walk down the street and sell them a nickel a piece for dressed bullheads. You can't get that anymore. Fresh out of the creek. That was really exciting. The other things that the Bashies had, which I don't know that there's one in Worthington anymore, was they had a pigeon loft behind their house. When Worthington got automobiles in the 1920s or so, a lot of people had barns and sheds out in their backyard that they used to keep horses. By the time World War II started, the horses were gone, but the sheds were still there. So we had a lot of things like pigeon coops out in the sheds, so that was pretty interesting. But the sheds are no more, sadly. One of the other things that we enjoyed in Worthington, which I just discovered yesterday, has come back. You now have a city bus service. During the World War II, after the Depression, a lot of people that lived in Worthington didn't own cars. My family was one of those. We walked every place we needed to go. About 1947, the city decided to start a bus service. They bought a couple buses, laid out some routes. Their timing was really bad. The service didn't last very long. They couldn't attract enough riders. The fares were too low. The buses were unreliable, and so the buses went out of service. But we used to come downtown, pay a dime to get on the bus, and we could ride all the way out to Cherry Point and back. And it was just kind of entertainment. We really didn't need to go to Cherry Point, but we enjoyed the bus ride. The other thing we enjoyed was the swimming beach that predated your Centennial Beach. And the swimming beach was behind the band shell at Chautauqua Park. It was a miserable beach. It was too small. The bottom was kind of muddy. The shoreline in a lot of places was rocky, and it was difficult, but we had a lot of good times there. One day when I was swimming underwater, and I ran into a large rock and put a big cut on my face, and I didn't know it. I didn't know I was cut. And I got up out of the water and walked up on the dock. Now I was bleeding quite a bit, and a lot of water made it look like I was bleeding to death on the dock. Everybody was horrified. And Ramona Rienstra, the lifeguard, rushed out on the dock and grabbed me. And from that point, I don't remember anything. I was just so entranced that Ramona Rienstra, the most beautiful woman in the world, came out and ministered to my difficulties. And I completely forgot everything from that point. But I haven't forgotten Ramona Rienstra. One of the other things that's missing from Worthington, and I don't know when it disappeared, every day we had a whistle, twice a day, at noon and at 10 o'clock. At the power plant, they'd blow the whistle. And of course, when we lost the power plant, the whistle was gone too. But I certainly miss it. I don't know if anybody around here is old enough to remember the whistle, but that's one of the magics of Worthington that I've kind of lost. Another thing that's kind of disappeared, and I saw some reference to pheasant hunting in one of your promotional brochures the other day. When I was a youngster, the opening day of pheasant season, it was like this. There was this huge crowd downtown. Hunters in their hunting gear, carrying a shotgun, cased of course, with their dogs, parading up and down the street. The electricity was in the air as everybody was ready to head out into the fields and shoot pheasants. But it was a remarkable scene. I came down on one of those days, went to Rick Beals, bought a box of shotgun shells. My older brother, who had a shotgun, had to work that day, so I talked him into lending it to me. And we went out south of town. My mother drove me out and dropped me off. As she drove away, the whistle at the power plant blew. It was noon, the season was open. I walked down the ditch. A pheasant got up, I shot, it fell. I walked over to get the pheasant, another one got up, it fell. I picked that one up, and the first one I shot was walking a little further, and a third pheasant got up, and I shot that one. Now, I'd never hunted pheasants before, so I guess it was beginner's luck, because when I got home, and I had to walk home because my mother wasn't going to pick me up until 3 o'clock, and it was now 10 minutes after 12. So I walked home about 2 miles. When my mother cleaned the pheasants, she said, "There's no shot in any of the pheasants. How did you kill them?" Each one of them had 1 or 2 BBs in the top of their head. I was shooting high over the top. and a stray BB hit each pheasant. So it really truly was beginner's luck. I don't think I've ever done that well since. But that was an amazing experience. One of the other things that we did, which has also disappeared from the scene in Worthington, along with the old YMCA building that was over on 11th. When I was in high school, there was a lot of fear about a Russian invasion of the United States, or I should say a Soviet Union invasion, to the point where we had kind of become consumed about the possibility of nuclear war. Well, the United States didn't have any radar systems to warn us of Russian or Soviet Union planes coming over the North Pole and invading the United States. So they started what was called the Ground Observer Corps. And a lot of us in high school volunteered to be members of that. So we would go up on top of the YMCA building where they built a little shelter up there. And there was a telephone and a compass rose plotting board. And we went up there and we watched for enemy planes coming over the United States. Now it seems pretty far-fetched today that we would spend our time doing that, but that was, 1953, 54, and by 1955 the United States had developed radar and the systems, and they disbanded the Ground Observer Corps. But it was a lot of fun. And every once in a while, they'd send an airplane over, and then we'd get the call on the telephone, identify ourselves, and get the direction of the watchtower that the plane was and report in. And that gave us a sense of accomplishment that we had a really good time. But that's one of the magic that's missing. One of the other interesting things that we did in those days as young kids, we used to go out and play at the old fairgrounds. The old fairgrounds were an interesting place for kids to play. A lot of the attachments are gone from the new fairgrounds. There was a large horse barn there, a big round barn, and a lot of horses. So we could go in there and hang around and once in a while get a chance to help somebody wash a horse or clean out a stall or do something like that. But the important piece of apparatus that was there was they had a large comfort station, which was kind of like a water park. If you go in, there were stalls, and underneath the stalls was a long trough. And at the end of the long trough was a barrel, and at the top of the barrel was a stream of water that ran in. And so we used to wait, watching that barrel like you'd watch for the glockenspiel at the plaza in Munich, waiting for the barrel to fill, and then it would tip over and send us big wave of water down the trough to wash the trough out. And that was high excitement for kids back in the 1940s. But that's missing from Worthington as well. But now that I'm here, back in town, I can't help but tell you how beautiful Worthington has become. When I was young, we went through a depression where nobody had any money. We went through the Second World War where there was money, but there was nothing to buy, or it was rationed and we couldn't get it. And then after that, the farm economy was only so-so, money was still tight. Worthington began to look a little bit shop-worn. And if you look around today, you'll discover that Worthington has become what I think is one of the most beautiful towns in the state. You should congratulate yourselves on that. The houses are all neatly trimmed, the lawns are all looking great. The population looks really good. I was really excited last night to be at the pavilion, listening to the music, walking through all of the food trucks that were down, and it was really great, so I really enjoyed it. So I want to say thank you to everybody for having me. I've really enjoyed my stay here. I still have relatives here, so I get down to Worthington every once in a while, and that's always a great place to visit. The last thing I want to close with is if you're interested in buying my book, I'm going to be down at the pavilion after the parade, and you can come down there and meet me, and if you're interested, I'll sign a copy of my book and you can have it. So that's it. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Jamie, thanks for having me. Have a good day and enjoy the parade, enjoy the race, and go Paycheck.
We've got a special thing for you here, Dave. I know this is probably a first time for you. If you want, you can name her Ramona, but I mean, right now we're going to give you the opportunity to kiss the turkey. Kiss the turkey.